Hello and welcome to the Kuriaknits podcast. My name is Erin and I'm so glad that you've joined me here today. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the test knits that I've been working on. They are the same 4 from last week. Unfortunately, I was not able to finish any of them, but I am very close to finishing one of them, maybe 2 of them. It depends how generous you want to be with me here. But if you hear a bit of resistance in my voice, it's because I'm just getting over a pretty bad cold. And I also had 2 extremely exciting secondhand finds, 2 things that I've been looking for a very long time, and things that I never thought that I'd find, like almost feels like once in a lifetime finds. And if you hear a weird noise, it's because my dog has taken it upon himself to lick my pants. Gibson, would you like to say hello to the people? Would you like to say hello? Would you like to say hello to the people? This is Gibson. He is a terrier mix, and this morning he has been a little needy, so you can say hello to him. Do you have anything to say to the people? So yeah, the past 2 weeks have been, I've spent a lot of it sick in bed, but it does mean I think I've gotten a decent amount of knitting done. It's always hard when I'm so used to like having pieces coming in and out and like focusing on some things and not focusing on some other things. And so it's really interesting to have the exact same 4 pieces to show you this week. I don't think I've ever done that. So I'm thinking that it'll be a quicker episode, but we shall see. I do have a lot to say about the items that I found secondhand, so that's really exciting. And also, I would like to say thank you to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Ana Luisa is a sustainable jewelry brand. One of the things that I really love about them is that they are carbon neutral and they have a good rating on Good For You, which is something that's really important to me when looking online for jewelry to buy. So they sent me some of their pieces over to test out, and I've been really impressed with their quality. So they sent me this ring here and this guy. I will do cutaways, and also this one here. And they also sent me some ear cuffs, which you can see here. I'll do some close-ups on those as well. I have been testing them out through the past week, and I have really enjoyed wearing them. I haven't seen any tarnishing or anything like that. They, of course, aren't turning my fingers green or something, which is really great. And I've really enjoyed these ear cuffs. For someone that doesn't have my ears pierced right now, I've been considering getting my ears pierced again, but I thought it was really cool that I could have some ear jewelry, and I thought I was really worried that they'd be super uncomfortable, and they're not uncomfortable at all. I would say for these two come as a set, the silver and gold here. For these 2, I can tell that I'm wearing them. I can definitely feel it, but for the top one, this round one here, I really can't feel it in my ear at all, and in fact I wore it yesterday and forgot it was in my ear and didn't take it out until I was just about to shower and caught a glimmer of the gold, and I was like, oh no, I'm still wearing my ear cuff. So that I think speaks really well to the quality and comfortability of this jewelry. One of the other things that I really love about this jewelry brand is that some of their pieces come in a really wide range of sizes. For me, I've got some chunky fingers. I don't know if you can tell. But for my middle finger, I need like a size 9 or 10, and some of their jewelry goes all the way up to a size 12, which I really loved to see, especially for rings. It can be extraordinarily difficult to find rings that fit larger sizes. So you can use the code kuriaknits20 on their website, and they also have some other great promotions going on, as well as some new collections, which I think are really, really beautiful. I will list all of the pieces that I'm wearing down below, and also I'll have my link down below if you're looking to get treat yourself to some new jewelry, or perhaps treat some loved ones in your life. And thank you so much to Ana Luisa again for sponsoring this video. Let's get into the whip. So my first test knit is one that the test has technically been completed, and it is the Lucia Pullover by Sari Nordlund. It is a beautiful all over cable and lace pattern. I think it's stunning. I think I was on the sleeve last time, so I just finished the sleeve, and one of the nice things that I really love about a lot of Sari Nordlund's test knits is that she only expects for the yoke and one sleeve to be completed to be able to complete the test knit. So this had a decently tight turnaround. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks, and there is absolutely no way with the intricacy of this pattern that I would have been able to complete a full sweater in that time, or at least I would have to knit on only this, and As you can tell by the rest of what I've got going on, I'm not necessarily or ever a monogamous knitter, and so I really like that Sari Nordlund, you can sign up for her tasks and you know that you have a good chance of being able to complete it for that reason. And so this is the beautiful Lucia Pullover. I am so looking forward to being able to complete this. There's been a lot of times this week, in fact, where I'm like, oh, you know what? A really light gray sweater would go really well with this. I find, especially with the time of spring it is, I'm not necessarily reaching towards these kinds of colors right now. I'm much more likely to be reaching towards some more pastel colors, lighter colors, and I'm realizing that is a gap in my knitted wardrobe. And so I am so looking forward to be able to get back to this and to be able to be knitting on it. And of course, it definitely helps that it's in one of my favorite yarns of all time, which is Blue Sky Fibers Wool Stock Worsted. Comes in these chunky skeins. I have talked about these to death, so if you're interested in hearing my thoughts more about this, I will check back on some of my other videos, but I will say that everything that I've knit in this has been wearing really, really wonderfully, and I love the way that it's already soft, and it softens even more upon wear, and I am so looking forward to having it in something like this that is just all over cables. I think that when this is done, it will become a firm favorite in my wardrobe. I was not able to block this out, so this is unblocked. Usually when I'm doing a sample for a test knitter, I will steam block it at the very least if I'm only doing part of a sweater, but unfortunately my steamer broke, which is really sad. So I have not been able to steam block anything, and wet blocking is such like a process, and I don't necessarily have the time to let it dry, although because we're in an old house I can now leave it by the vent and it dries a lot faster. But it's just like sometimes I don't have a whole day to let it sit on the side, and so unfortunately this is unblocked. Because I have it on hold now, I probably could give it a block, but then I have to take it off the cables, and it just seems like a lot of effort. So I think I will be looking, if you have a steamer that you'd recommend, please leave it in the comments below. I am on the market. I was using a travel steamer, which I really loved, but if it's going to break within a year, I will not be buying that specific steamer again, so I might need to invest in a nicer steamer because I end up using my steamer a lot. I don't own an iron, so that's really how I get wrinkles out of my clothes, and it's how I am most likely to block my knits, especially mid-process. So I think that's all I have to say about the Lucia Pullover, and if you are interested in this pattern, it is now out, so I will link it down below, and I would love to see your versions of this. I think it's so stunning. I've seen some people knit it in darker colors, but I haven't seen any in like a black or a dark gray, and I think that would be a really beautiful combination as well, so I'm keeping my eye out to see what that looks like. So my next knit is one that is basically finished, I think, but I need to complete the task, so I've got a little bit more to do on it, and it is the Kaarina Tee by Sari Nordlund, which I think is just, it is so stunning. I love the cabling pattern on this, but you will notice that it is kind of a tank top for me right now and not a tee, and so I find that a lot of t-shirts, knitted t-shirts, thicker t-shirts, don't necessarily look the best on my frame. I much prefer either a tank top or something like this is more of a 3/4 length. This is a shorter, about the shortest as I want it to go, and I was talking about last time how I was hoping that I'd have enough yarn to make this basically the same. This is my tulip Guernsey. I was hoping to make it basically the same length as my tulip Guernsey, but I do not think I'll have enough yarn for that. So I think I'm going to make this more of a slip over or a tank top, and I am going to film a cutaway where I'm wearing this, and you'll be able to see what it looks like with a bit of a short sleeve and a bit of in the tank top that I'm planning, and you can let me know what you think suits me better. But I do want to be able to complete the test for Sari Nordlund. So I am knitting at least one sleeve. I think that I don't have a lot of this, it's the pure silk that I don't have a lot of left. This is all of it, and I've been pulling from the inside of the ball, so this is a very flimsy ball. So I think that I would have to cast off very soon if I were to have a matching sleeve, and I just don't think that this short of sleeve is really going to suit me at all. And so what I think I'm going to do is knit this sleeve, test out the technique. The sleeve is kind of, you fold it inward to create a seamless effect. And so I'm going to test that out, make sure that the pattern is written well, which I think it is, take a photo for evidence, and then just rip it back and wear it as a tank top. And because I knew that I was likely going to wear it as a tank top or a slip over, I have blocked this already, and I think it's looking lovely. One of the things that is just me kind of being dumb, and I'll warn you about, is that I am knitting this with Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the shade Dusty Artichoke, which is beautiful, and I'm pairing that with Stress Knits Favorite Base in Eucalyptus, which is really stunning. You can see it in the skein, I think, in the last episode. But I have two of her favorite base in Eucalyptus, and I'd held them up to the sun, and I'd held them in the shade, and I'd put them together, and they, to my mind, they were exactly the same. And so I didn't bother varying which one is going where, and that was definitely a mistake, because you can definitely tell a difference between the two, unfortunately. That is one thing that you have to be wary of when you're buying hand-dyed yarns, is that not every skein will be exactly the same. Even if it's the same dye lot, sometimes you can run the risk of them just looking a little bit different, and I definitely have here. Thankfully it's not too terribly noticeable, but you can definitely see when I switched on the bottom here that one is darker and one's a bit lighter. And it bothers me a little bit, but honestly, I don't think it's too big of a deal in the long run. The fabric that this has created is just so luxurious and stunning that I just can't be bothered to try and rip it back and fix it. I just I don't know, I don't care enough to, and I don't think the difference is so stark that unless you were really looking at it, you'd really be able to tell. Even in the sunlight, like today is pretty cloudy, it's not very sunny, but I've held it up in the actual sun and I didn't notice too much. But that is just a word of warning, is that you can't necessarily tell by looking at them for your hand-dyed skeins how different the colors are, and just to be wary of that and consider, at least in the transition, changing up, doing one then the other for your rows, to be able to transition into the next one a little bit more nicely, and so that you don't have the stark line, the dreaded line. But I think it's fine. I'm not too concerned about it, I'm not too upset about it, but I just thought I'd note it. This tee should be coming out, I think, late next week. I think I've seen Sari say next Thursday if you're watching this when it comes out, and the test is due on Wednesday, so I have plenty of time. I really just flew through this. This was knit on 4mm needles, and yeah, that's about as thick as I like to go for my summer knitwear. Because this has some wool content, it's half knit, half superwash merino, and half silk. I think it'll definitely be more of a spring piece, spring and winter piece. In winter I'll wear it over top of something or underneath a cardigan potentially, and in spring I'll wear it on its own. But I think that's perfectly fine. It is really, really beautiful, and if there's not a heat wave, it might be a really good piece to wear somewhere like England and Scotland, where the summers are a bit cooler. But I love the pattern, and I'm definitely considering casting on a second one in a 100% cotton yarn to have a true summer piece that I can wear in this pattern. And if I have the yarn for it, at that point I might consider making sleeves. So definitely lots of options. I love the versatility of this pattern, and that is something that I love of a lot of Sari Nordlund's patterns, is that they are so versatile. So yeah, definitely a very enjoyable test knit. I have been enjoying the process immensely. So let's talk about my other summer test knit. This is a test knit for Aimee Sher, and this is my first time testing for Aimee Sher. I have admired the way in which she conducts tests, in the way in which she conducts her business for a while now, but her designs are not always my taste. and I was so glad to see something that I really, really loved, and I was so glad to be chosen for the test. I will say, if you're looking to be chosen as a tester for Aimee, it does seem like she works mostly on a first come first served basis. I got the email and applied for the test right away, and literally within minutes I had been accepted to the test. And so I think she's looking to keep it fair, I would assume, is that she's looking for some of the first people that come through. So if you see the email and you really want to test for her, I would recommend to jump on it. I don't know for sure that that's how she conducts her tests, but based on the speed at which she responded, I would hazard a guess that that is one of her criteria. So I mentioned last time that I had to rip out the entire front of the tank top and redo it I have done, and I'm so glad I did because I think it looks a lot better. Now this is going to be difficult to show just based on where I am, so maybe I'll just hold up the front and let the back go by the wayside. So this is what it's looking like. This is the Oolong Tank, and it has just this beautiful lace patterning up the front and up the tank sleeves. And I just think it's really beautiful, and definitely upon the second time making it, I've done a much better job at making it. And so I am very glad that I took the time to rip out the front, fix all of my mistakes, and do it again. Basically, I had completely messed up where the decreases were, and I had just gotten flustered, and this happens to me sometimes, I find, especially in summer patterns, because I just don't have as much experience with all of the funky shaping and things, and sometimes you just get ahead of yourself, and especially when you're so used to making modifications on the fly, sometimes you can just get into that headspace, and then you have to go like, oh my gosh, I'm testing, and then you have to go back and read it and do it by the letter. And I would say that this time around it is much better that I did it by the letter of the law. I also had just made the body too short, and so I went back, I lengthened the body to the actual amount the body is supposed to be, and I'm grateful for it. And so I have not been working on this as much as I should have because I'm now at the boring part. So basically the back is just miles of stockinette, and I am maybe about halfway done. So you just go back and forth, and as someone who doesn't love purling, I have just not been picking this up as much, especially because they're on 3mm needles, and it's just on cotton, and it's so arduous. It's just like, anyways, I know that the finished result's gonna be lovely. There's some testers that have already finished theirs, and every single one of them fit so well. I think that because this is still a cropped length, it is gonna look so good with skirts. I'm so glad that it came onto this test. I think it is a really, really lovely design. I will say I am making it 100% cotton, but Aimee Sher actually recommends there being some kind of wool content in there. So I will just give that warning if you're wanting to make this tank top when it comes out. I think it's coming out in April. So I am using the Cray Deluxe Organic Cotton, which comes in these beautiful little balls. I love these things. I think it's such a good way to kind of ball up your yarn. I just really like the way it looks. And I picked this up in London. I don't think I had a plan for it then, but I picked it up at Loop. Yeah, and I'm loving the way that it looks in this pattern. I thought I had only had a couple of balls left, and then I found one had like disappeared. So I had bought 6 of these, and I think that this is going to end up using like 3.5, which is kind of remarkable actually, that you can get a whole tank top out of 3.5 balls. And because they're kind of pretty inexpensive, I think that this tank top is going to end up being a really affordable piece for me. I think that some other alternatives is tin line, I think would be a really, really beautiful alternative to knit this in. And the original, Aimee Sher originally knit it in linen quill, which obviously is a beautiful alternative and is a yarn that a lot of people rave about. I still have my, I had bought into the hype. I still have my linen quill. I still plan on doing some things with it, but the thing that I had initially bought it for, I'm no longer planning to make that pattern. And so I've got some other things in mind for my linen quill, but I'm still looking forward to the day where I can cast it on, because everyone raves about it so much, and having felt it, I can say that it's a really beautiful yarn, at least in this skein. So I'm looking forward to the day, one day, where I'll be able to cast it on and really see what all the hype is about, I guess. But yeah, so that is one thing, the tank, that I will hopefully, I'll have at least 2 finished objects for you next time. I will have the Kaarina Tee from Sari Nordlund, and I think I'll have the Oolong Tank by Aimee Sher, and so hopefully I'll have some new things to show you at that point, but also some finished objects that I can wear for you, as opposed to taking out some Old Faithful like my tulip guernsey. So I have one more knit that I'm testing to show you, and I've actually made some decent progress on that, so hopefully I can talk a little bit more about that one. Okay, so this next one is a test knit that I'm doing for Emily Chen, and she is a newer designer and someone else that I've never tested for. So I just saw this design posted on Instagram and I just loved it. And so this is the Freddie Pullover, and I have joined in the round, which is exciting, and I've also done all of the finishing on top. And this is one of those things where I really wish I had my steamer, because I think it would look so much better once it's steamed. It is looking a little bit wonky right now because this is yarn that I had knit into another project and then frogged, and so it has, of course, wool has some memory to it, and so it's just looking a little bit funky right now, but I know that once I'm able to block it all out, it's going to look lovely. And I also really want to block out this collar here. So this is one of the last things that I have finished on this, and it is double knit. And it is the first time I've ever done double knitting, and I will say it was really easy. I was not fazed by it at all. It was really intuitive to me, and I definitely recommend it as a technique in your back pocket. Eventually it's just like knitting in the round, and so I thought it was really enjoyable process, and you just bind off in like an Italian bind off, which is really cool. Yeah, I really love the way that this collar worked. She calls for a larger collar, but if you look at the way that Emily's collar sits on her, it is massive. It like goes to her shoulders, and I knew that I didn't want that much, but because this is kind of poofing out a little bit because it's unblocked, it looks so much shorter than I think it actually is. Mine's only like less than an inch shorter than hers, and because it looks like it's shrinking a little bit, it looks like a teeny tiny, like completely inadequate collar. So I am very much hoping that I can get a steamer or take the time to wet block this soon so I can get an actual idea of how it's sitting. I have left out the end for this just in case I need to rip it back and add some more length to it, but I think it's gonna be fine, especially based on the measurements and looking at her sample. I think it's gonna be okay. One of the annoying things I'm finding about this test though is that no one's posting on Instagram about it. Like I can see based on how the questions that people are asking is that some people in the test are further along than me, but like no one's posting on Instagram. And I mean, that's on me too. I have yet to post about this on Instagram, but usually if I'm not like one of the first ones to get through the pattern, I can look at what other people are doing and compare, and I have only the designers to compare with, which is like it's fine, but I'm interested to see if other people have finished their collars and if they're kind of sitting a little bit puffy too, or if they've done their shorters or longer, and just to see what that looks like, see what it looks like in different colors. And I can't do that. So I'm kind of left on my own here, but I know that I will eventually be able to do that, but I just feel like I'm forging ahead on my own, which is a little bit of a weird feeling, but that's okay. That's what testing is for, I suppose. And yeah, I just really love this pattern. It's nice to be in the round now. I find that it's going a little bit faster now that I'm in the round, and I'm really looking forward to have this as a finished object. I feel like I'm knitting this a little bit out of season though. I almost wish that I had chosen to knit this in more of a spring color, because I think it would be a really nice spring piece, whereas I feel like this coloring is screaming much more fall. It really reminds me, especially with the color, of like September, going to school for the first time. But yeah, it's been really enjoyable to knit on so far. I will say this pattern, out of every test knit that I've done, this pattern has probably needed the most changes, and so there's certain things that you come across, and I had mentioned this before, is that I kept coming across things and then referencing back to the document where she has all of the logs of problems, and almost every time someone else has found it before me. but it just adds an extra step, and you're reading the pattern, you see something, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to report that, and then it's already been reported. And so I think that the way in which she's doing her test can maybe use some massaging, but I have really been enjoying the pattern itself and the design itself. And I think once it's done and all of the like kind of kinks have been ironed out, I think it's going to be a really, really lovely pattern. I am knitting it in West Yorkshire Spinners Fleece Blueface Luster DK, and it looks like this. This is 100% British wool. I got this in England and I really, really love it. It has kind of a fuzziness that I really wasn't expecting from it. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but it has just the slightest halo that I would not have expected from 100% wool, and I'm really enjoying the way that it's knitting into a garment. Funny enough, I don't think I picked this color again. It's just like a grayish kind of tone, and I think I was really into that last year, but I think I've gone a little bit overboard on all of the browns, and so I'm just looking, especially this time of year, I'm looking for a little bit more color in my life. And so yeah, I can see my knitting moving a little bit away from the browns, but I think that this will be such a nice staple in my wardrobe. I already know that I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it, especially next fall. So yeah, I think this is a lovely wool. I would definitely recommend. I will definitely be looking out for it next time I'm in England. It might be a really good buy to get in another color, but if I remember correctly, I don't think this comes in a ton of colorways, so that's just something to note. But everything that I've tried from West Yorkshire Spinners has been really lovely, and I know that they have, which is much more common to see in North America, as they have a line of sock yarns as well, which I've heard good things about, but as not a sock knitter, I have not tried them. But everyone that I've talked to that has done it has really rated them highly, so I would definitely recommend checking those out if you would like a sock yarn, and please report back. Let me know if they're good. So that's it. That's all I've been knitting on. I am so looking forward to getting some things out of my kind of holding area for knits. There's definitely a lot of things that I'm hoping to finish, and I have such an itch to cast on something spring-like on. I really want like a lavender cardigan. I've definitely had that in mind for a while, and so I'm really hoping I can cast on just something brighter and more spring-like, just to kind of, I don't know, lift my spirits a little bit. I found myself really reaching towards my dresses a lot more and reaching towards those lighter colors, and I think I'm just ready for a little bit more light and freshness in my life, especially with how dreary it's been here. But I will say it's warming up. It was like 8 degrees yesterday, which was delightful. I could walk outside and my face did not hurt, and you know, that is all I ask for from my spring, is to walk outside and to be able to survive. So that is all that I've been knitting on. I apologize, it's not the most exciting, I guess, episode to talk about the things that you're still knitting on, but the truth is that knitting is a slow craft, and although I consider myself a fairly fast knitter, there's only so fast you can go when you're working on the same 4 things, and you gotta finish them all within a timeline. So I hope that my talking through my processes has been enjoyable nonetheless. And now let's get into the truly exciting part, which is the secondhand finds I found over the past couple days. So I've always had dreams about having the most amazing score of my life, walking into a thrift store and seeing it sitting there, the interchangeable set of my dreams, a beautiful, stunning needle set. And of course, this never happened to me. No one just donates their chow-goos to the thrift store, because usually if you have chow-goos, you know how much they're worth. But I have been very blessed in that I have found 2 interchangeable needle sets on Facebook Marketplace for a deeply discounted price in the past week, and I genuinely can't believe it. So I found 2. I literally can't believe it. So the first one that I found, and to be honest, I probably would not have gotten this one if I had found the chow-goo set first, because yeah, it's just a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I might be reselling them. But let me get into the story first. So I log in almost every day. I check Facebook Marketplace to see what's going on. I think the thrifting video will be posted after this. So if you want an idea of how I find so much yarn and knitting supplies secondhand, check out that video. Should be out next week. But I log in and I see that someone is selling their Leica small set for $100. And well, they were selling it for $120, and I look online and it's worth $150. And I was like, you know what, that's a good deal. I've always wanted to try the Leica needles, and let's give them a go. And so I messaged them and I said, I can only do 100. Would you take 100? And after some going back and forth, they agreed to take $100. So I actually don't have them in this container right now, and I'll show you how I'm organizing my needles after I show you the other set. But they are the 3-inch Leica wooden needles, and they look like this. And they come all the way from a 3.25 all the way up to a 6.5, which is incredible. You don't really see sets with that much range, I find, very much. And so they are beautiful little shorty set, and they are tiny, as a reference. So they are comparable to my knit picks, and my knit picks are the 5 inches, and it's like comical how much of a difference there is in the size. So this is what I'm used to knitting on, and these are just tiny, teeny tiny. I will say, as far as wood needles go, this is definitely the highest quality wood I've ever felt. I have some wooden of my larger Knit Picks needles, the size 9 and the size 10, just because I couldn't get those in the metal when I bought them. And I will say the Leica is definitely a nicer wood. Not only in color, in my opinion, but it also just feels nicer. And I am really impressed with the quality on these. And so that was the first set I found, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. But then I found some ChiaoGus. Someone had posted that they were selling their ChiaoGu 4-inch set, full set, for $70. And I was like, me please. And I basically ran out there to go get them. And so the short set comes with 2.75 millimeter needles all the way up to a 5 millimeter needle, so definitely a smaller size range than the Leicas. But one of the reasons that it's a smaller size range is their joiners actually change sizes after the 5 millimeter for a ChiaoGu. So you get the small set and then the large set, and I only have the small set. So I have my number one, my most used knitting needles are my 5-inch ChiaoGu set. And now I have the 4-inch ChiaoGu set. And so you can see the size difference there. And the thing that I didn't realize that I think is really great is that the 4-inch ChiaoGu set comes with smaller wires. And so I can get down to like a 9-inch on these things, which is really nice. So for me, as someone who never does socks, I really have, or I think not a 9-inch, like a 12-inch. I have no reason to ever be below that. I really didn't have much of a reason to even get below a 16-inch because I can do sleeves and hats on that. So I was considering on getting the ChiaoGu shorty set, which are even smaller. They go right down to a sock size. And I had ultimately decided maybe in the future, but not now. But I didn't realize that the 4-inch set would basically it would fix all my problems. So basically, with the 5-inch set, I could only get down to 24 inches. And with the 4-inch set, I can get very easily down to 12 inches. And that has made it so that I can knit absolutely anything that I would ever want to knit, basically, in the round, except for socks. And I don't really knit socks anyways. And so this ChiaoGu set has fulfilled all of my problems and has basically made it so that I don't need the Leica set, although it's lovely. So I'm going back and forth on whether to resell it, but let me show you kind of what my needle situation is right now. So my lesser, I think of them as my lesser needles. They're beautiful needles. I am storing both of them in ChiaoGu cases. So these are my Knit Picks and Leica needles, and I am storing them like this. So I'm using the ChiaoGu holders because they have the numbers on it, which I appreciate. and they've got 2 pockets. They've got the back pocket, which I'm holding my big ones, which are my knit picks, in the small pockets, which I'm holding my Lycas, and they use the same join. So although they're 2 different companies, I can interchange my wires and my stoppers, and that's why I'm holding them together, because I can use the same cables with them. So that's what that looks like. And I have a more full set of these. The Lycas go up to a 6.5, and I have my knit picks all the way up to a 10. Since I've got, so the knit picks were my first interchangeable set. I really like them. I don't love the cords, but I think the needles are really, really nice. I only have them down to a 3.5. Their standard set doesn't go below that, but I do have them all the way up to a 10. So if I do something a bit bulkier or past the 5mm, basically, I am using my knit picks, and I have no plans to get rid of my knit picks. They're a really nice pair of backup needles, and I actually get a decent amount of use out of them. So I really like having them. I like having them in here. The Lycas, however, I've tried knitting on them, and I find them deeply uncomfortable. So I will give you a comparison of these Lycas to my Chow-Goos, and although they're not too far off in size, I find that the Lycas are really uncomfortable for me to hold. And these, even the Chow-Goos, I find a little bit uncomfortable to hold as well. So I think for the Chow-Goos I can definitely get used to them, but for the Lyca needles, I don't know if I'll get used to these. And if I'm not reaching for them, why keep them? But at the same time, I like that I basically have a full other set of both short needles and long needles. And so I'm kind of going back and forth on whether to keep these ones. And then on the other hand, my Chow-Goos, I have a full set from a 2.75 all the way up to a 5mm in both the 5 and the 4. And that is in here like this. There's some missing because they're on projects, and these are what I'm reaching for. These are my number 1 needles. If I need to start a knitting project, I look here first. And if these are missing, that's when I go to my knit picks. Or if I'm doing a project above a 5mm, that's when I go to my knit picks and potentially my Lyca needles. But here's the thing, is that my Lyca needles are basically in 4th place at this point. If I need a needle, I'm going to reach for the Chow-Goo first. If I don't have it in the 5-inch, I would say the 4-inch in my knit picks are probably around the same. I have the same likelihood of reaching for one over the other. If it's a longer project, I'll probably reach for my knit picks next. If it's a shorter project, I'll reach for my second set of Chow-Goos, my 4-inch Chow-Goos. And then if I don't have a 4-inch Chow-Goo and I'm in a smaller circumference, it is only then that I'll reach for my Lyca needles. And I like knitting on DPNs, so why would I not just reach for DPNs at that point? So I have a bit of a dilemma, that may not even sound like much of a dilemma, is whether to keep these Lyca needles or whether to resell them. I think I could easily get the money that I bought for them back. I think $100 was a very reasonable price. This case, by the way, is lovely. I just thought it would be easier to store them all together. So I could just put them back in this case, sell them back as is. And you know what, I might do that. I might put it on my Instagram and sell to one of you guys if you're interested. So leave me a message if you are interested in buying these. I would sell them for 100 Canadian dollars, and if I need to ship to you plus shipping. But yeah, it just seems, I honestly can't believe that I found these Lyca needles and Chow-Goos in the same week. Like, when does that ever happen? But because I found the Chow-Goos after the Lyca needles, I don't think I need the Lyca needles anymore. I think that I am kind of very more than content with the way that my needles are organized and stashed without the Lycas. So I think I'm going to sell them. I think talking through this now, I've decided to sell them. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you would keep them. Let me know if you found an amazing deal on needles in your area. And I will have that thrifting video coming out next week, but I am just thrilled, especially with my 4-inch Chow-Goos. I think they're a really good deal. And if you're like me and you don't knit socks, but you have your Chow-Goos and you've been looking for a way to knit sleeves a little bit more comfortably, and even going back and forth on the shorty set. I would recommend at least looking at the 4-inch set, because I thought the 4-inch set came with the same cable sizes, and they don't. They come with smaller ones, and if I had known that, I think I would have bought them sooner. And I'm glad I didn't, because now I bought them for really cheap. So that was a huge win for me. But yes, I think that's all I have to say in this episode. I have a really big conference coming up on Saturday where I'm both organizing and I am moderating a panel. So I've got a lot of work to do on that. But I'm taking today mostly off in preparation for that, because tomorrow will be a nice 14 to 16 hour day. Yeah, it's crazy because I've got the conference. I'm getting there at like 7:30 in the morning, and I'm there till 7:30 at night, and then I've got a dinner, and then I've got a friend's birthday, so I'm going to a bar afterwards, and it's just going to be me running around town. And it's all good things, but as someone who is introverted, I am going to take today as my hermit time, and I'm going to be taking Sunday as a day to do basically nothing, because I know that I will be more than exhausted, not only physically but just like emotionally drained. I already know. I haven't done a day like this, I think, since the pandemic, like a day where it's full action all day every day. Maybe when I was at the conferences in England, but even then I wasn't running it. I could kind of hide for a little bit, and because I'm an organizer on this conference, I'm gonna have to be kind of on all day. So it'll be a very large day. I'm very much looking forward to it, but I'm also like already exhausted for it. So yeah, but that's his academic life, I suppose. All good things. So yeah, and I'm really, really looking forward to April. There's some really fun things coming up, and I feel like I'm finally starting to hit my stride. The long COVID, the like cloud heaviness of long COVID has very much lifted, and apart from this cold that I'm still just getting over, I have felt better than I have in months, and so that's been really, really nice. We're still dealing with some family stuff at home, but things are definitely looking up, and I'm really, once again, I have so much hope for the next 6 months in our future, and I'm just so looking forward to what's to come. So that's a really, really nice feeling. I'd like to thank Ana Luisa again for sponsoring this episode. You can check out my code down below. I would highly recommend the jewelry if you want to check it out. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!